Well, hello, chaps and chappets. Welcome to this Facebook video or YouTube video, whatever video you want to call it. This is the Quantum Quiz, where I interview someone, well, we quiz someone in the board game realms about board games, obviously. Maybe, or maybe not. As you can see from the thumbnail on this video, I'm going to be talking to Eli from I am terrible. Who has his new game, Vector Wars, and his own company, which is called Meeple City Games.
Hey, everyone.
One day there'll be a button on this keyboard I'll push, and there'll be like a round of applause, and you can be able to take a bow.
I can give myself applause.
That'd be great.
Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is Eli Mamane.
Mamane, yeah.
Mamane. It's the French coming through. I apologize.
Yeah, maman. Yeah, you could do like a little French twinge to it.
It is a little bit like that. C'est maman. Maman? Maman. Anyway.
It's French Moroccan, so like you can get away with it basically.
Yeah, I didn't know that my name was French for many, many years. Everyone was mocking me and saying, you are Mr. Doublet. And I'm like, no, it's Doublet. Doublet. I'm called Doublet, mate.
Did you have a bowler hat to go with
it? And a funny walk.
Oh,
I got it from a ministry somewhere. I don't know where. So this is Eli Mamane, who is joining me on this wonderful show, and he thinks he's here to talk about his game, which is coming to Kickstarter very soon.
I hope so, a little bit at least.
But before we do, I like to have a bit of fun with my guests and find out a bit more about them with some questions which I've squeezed into the theme of Quantum Leap, the TV show, where Sam Beckett keeps zapping back in time into different people's bodies, and he has to figure out where he is, and will he change history for the better or the worse? We shall find out with our very first question, which is, if you had control over this quantum leap technology, right? Because in the TV show, he didn't. I don't know if you've seen the TV show.
I've watched the entire series like multiple times.
Oh, so you're a fan?
A big fan of Quantum Leap. Yeah.
Okay, so this is your dream come true.
Yeah, I could talk about it all day, actually, if you really wanted to know.
That's good, because I just like catch it every now and again on a Sunday. That was it.
No, I own all the DVD box sets, and I've watched them loads of times.
Oh, cool. So your answers are going to be the best, because you've been dreaming about them.
I mean, I don't know. It would have to depend on the question you asked me.
Okay. Even though I sent you the questions.
Yes, but I chose not to look at them because I wanted to feel on the spot. I like to feel on the spot. I feel like I want to give the audience the natural answers. So okay. I know you did, but I chose to take some time to enjoy the process.
They're not too difficult. Okay. The first one is, if you were to slip into the body of someone in the music industry, who would it be and why? My example normally is I jump into Paul McCartney, and so I could watch and see and learn how John Lennon writes his songs. And then when I jump back into me, I could be a great songwriter, because I'm really just a musician that composes music. I'm not a songwriter. That's one. That's kind of like a good one for me. But there's the other one, which is I could jump into Paul McCartney and I could sabotage the songs. And so, like, when I grow up and I jump back into me and I grow up, I'm not constantly plagiarized by people saying, "Oh, the Beatles are the best." Oh, the Beatles. And I can just, that won't happen. So that's the bad. That's the bad side of me. So I've got a good side of me and a bad side of me. But which one would I have chosen? That's the question. And which one would you have chosen?
So I've got a more modern answer and I've got a historic answer. For me, my kind of historic answer is I would go into a guy called Joe Satriani. He's a guitarist, in fact, I believe the world's greatest electric guitarist. And I would want to go back to the point where he heard Coldplay rip off his music. and decide whether I was going to sue them or come to an agreement, because it appears they came to an agreement outside of the courts. And I would have loved to have been a fly on the wall on that little event, for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, but the thing is, that's happening commonplace everywhere at the moment now. There's people
I've got
suing
one for
other
you. I've got
artists.
one for you. I've got one for you, actually. Did
Oh,
you know, and this has just come out in the news, do you remember the 90s kids show for the X-Men?
there were so many, and there's so
No,
many
like
still
there was
coming.
there was a main Fox Kids X-Men show. It had a phenomenal intro music.
Okay.
If you don't remember it, check
No.
it up, because I
Okay.
grew up with that show, and those people who end up watching this might actually know what I'm talking about. It was only about a week ago I found that it got ripped off some Hungarian detective show, and it has actually blown my mind. I didn't want to believe it, and then I actually heard this Hungarian detective show's intro, and this is Disney we're talking about,
Mhm.
completely stole it, and they're getting sued for it now. This is nearly 30 years later, isn't it? What are we?
Yeah.
Yeah, nearly 30 years later, and they're getting sued for it right now. How? What a shocker!
Yeah, it is. It's amazing that people. It's not dragging up history or bad blood or anything. It's just I don't know that there is such it's commonplace now in law that there are these bands that are saying, okay, yeah, you've ripped off our song. I watched a video on YouTube a while ago, and it was about Katy Perry's song, and that was in the headlines like about 3 or 4 months ago, and that was being claimed as being ripped off because of this little kind of like rap R&B melody.
Yeah,
And some other guy had said, "Yeah, that's my song." And then
right.
you listen to it, and it's just one note different in between the two songs, but yet he was claiming for it, and it was like,
If I was to answer that question, by the way, like with the most popular answer that I think people would give, it would probably be Freddie Mercury, Queen at Live Aid, because I'm pretty sure that would have been just a moment of glory that
yeah,
people could only experience kind of once in a lifetime. So if I was just to want to have a moment that's like special, but I really like the idea of finding out that someone's ripped off my music for the first time and doing something about it.
I
Just to understand that mentality. I mean, it's such a shame. But like, I think because of globalization and the internet and information being information being available all the time. Yeah, it's my phone. Should put that on silent. Sorry, everyone. Because of the information that's now globalized, right? There
yeah,
were stuff happening in Hungary that America never thought anyone would find out about, right? They're just the internet wasn't there. And
no,
now, if something small happens in the middle of Uzbekistan, and someone rips it off on the other side of the planet, we're going to know about it, and they're going to get called out on Reddit, right? Because that's
yeah,
what Reddit's for, basically. People have got too much time on their hands.
yeah. Oh yeah, I mean, I could tell you some stories because, as I said, I'm a composer, and there have been songs that there's a song that I heard once at one time, and I thought, oh my god, I wrote that. I
I
had
really
this, I recorded this thing on this 4-track, and then like some years later, this melody was almost identical. Again, probably one note different, and it was like the timing of it and the melody itself, and I was like, wow, they've copied my song. And I was like, how did they hear my song? I was like, blew my mind at the time, but I've kind of realized that music is kind of like limited to X
Yeah, from a
amount of
mathematical point
notes.
of view, exactly. Like,
Yeah, X amount of rhythm and timing. So
yeah, there's a set number of probable. So for those that don't know me, by the way, I'm a theoretical physicist. I'm a physics teacher, and so I have a strong knowledge of mathematics and physics. That's my area of expertise. And board game design, of course.
yes.
So with music, there is obviously a statistical set of values of how many songs that can be produced, right? Single notes and onwards.
Yeah.
Obviously, you'd have to have set frequencies. So I'm talking about things like the piano. There is a set number of possible options to play the piano. There is a set number of possible options to play a guitar or a violin. You could have an infinite length, meaning that they could be infinitely different over a long period. But assuming that you had a set length, then there is actually now a set number of possible outcomes. And so what will happen is over time, people will end up copying each other without like knowing that they're trying to do it. But this was blatant, right? There's a difference, isn't there?
Yeah.
Like, you could tell when it's accidental, probably, because there's random error, but there is things that were blatantly copied, blatantly.
Yeah, yeah, and I want to lead into board games with that. Um, Again, there have been stories in the board game world that people have been taken to court because they've copied another game. They've taken like the mechanisms and the heart and the core concepts of the game, but
Yeah.
given it a different coating and published it under a different publisher. I can think of recently the one that got me kind of like a bit angry was the Alien Nostromo game, which was created by a French designer. I think it was a Belgian company were going to make it, and then they let the designer go, and then they say that they redesigned the game with the same theme because they had the rights from Fox, and then they were going to release it, and there was this big old hoo-ha over the internet, which kind of threw this company into a,
Well, the thing with game design is it's way more complicated because you cannot actually copyright any individual mechanism in a game.
No.
Otherwise, we wouldn't be able to roll dice anymore. Like after they invented backgammon
Yahtzee.
or whatever. Yeah, Yahtzee. I think backgammon older. I think it is.
Backgammon's older.
Yeah. So as soon as they invented backgammon, we wouldn't be able to have tokens. We wouldn't be able to have dice because you'd copyright the mechanisms, and then movement in chess, and then Monopoly having finances and so on and so forth. I mean, there's older games than Monopoly, but the bottom line is that you can't actually copyright a mechanism. So effectively, any game that comes out can be copied in terms of its mechanism identically, and there's no law against it. What they cannot copy is obviously the IP, the intellectual property, in terms of the look, the aesthetics, the artwork. It's a lot. In fact, the artwork is significantly better protected than the actual board game itself. And so that's where the line is drawn. But I would say people aren't stupid, right? If someone just comes out with a rip-off of another game, people know they're not stupid. Saying that, Space Base is literally a rip-off of Machikoro, like in every way. It's slightly better. They've made it, a few more mechanisms inside, but I mean, literally, it's the same game. Okay, it's just different theme, and they can do that. That's board games. And if someone unfortunately decided that they wanted to completely copy the game that I've made, then they would be able to do that. The reason why it doesn't happen so much in board games, I think, as well, is because it's actually very difficult to build a board game and to understand the mathematics sometimes and the balancing process that happens there. So if you're going to create another game with the same mechanisms, you're still going to have to go through quite a lot of the torture of game testing. And so it's not financially worthwhile. You're better off just building your own board game, to be honest, especially as people are not going to be best pleased to see a rip-off of a game anyway.
Yeah, Hasbro don't have any problems making games, so...
No.
Okay, that leads us into our next question, which is if you were to now Sam Beckett into someone else in the board gaming spheres. But before you answer, this is where you need your pen and paper.
Okay.
Right, you are going to draw an image which is going to point me or the viewers watching this video in the direction of
the creator.
Yeah. I mean, it could be a designer.
A pen that works, wouldn't it? Hold on.
It could be a designer. It could be someone who started a publishing company. And again, afterwards, I want to know, a bit more about why you chosen this person. Would you be the fly on the wall, or would you go into their life and tweak something to, would you go into Steve Jackson and make him create Munchkin pizza restaurant as a game instead of Munchkin vampires? Or
I mean, I'm just I'm just trying to draw things that are going to give you an idea who I'm talking about. Not so easy, especially as I can't draw, which doesn't help.
Right, but you've played Pictionary and you've played
games. Yeah, I have, and I'm never good at them.
Yeah, but it's always a good laugh, isn't it?
Yeah, it's always a good laugh to laugh at my terrible drawings.
Oh dear.
Yeah, here we go. Okay, these are my clues here.
The screen is all yours.
Yeah. I'm doing it. I think this is enough right here, actually. you probably will get it.
Okay.
Okay. Let's see from, I don't know if you can, here we go. Ooh.
Okay. There is a chicken and 2 dots. That's a good chicken. I don't have a problem with that. And it looks like a bottle of wine, grapes, and okay. I think I know who this is.
Who is it?
I think you've drawn 2 games of theirs.
Mm-hmm.
One of them viticulture, and the other one wingspan.
Yay! So who's the person?
It would be Jamie Stegmaier.
Correct.
Hey, I'm not as. Yeah, I love viticulture, so.
I haven't told you what I would do.
Yeah, so you're going to jump into Jamie Stegmaier. Why?
I'm going to jump into his body and then make his games more interesting. I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
Wingspan for me is I think for me Stegmaier, and I'm going to get shot down by loads of the super Stegmaier fans, and I like Jamie a lot. I watch a lot of his tutorials on Kickstarter. I've watched a lot of his blogs, daily blogs on that he does about just his life. Actually, he's just a really nice guy as a human being. He's just a really nice bloke. And he's always been kind enough to answer questions that I have about game design and stuff. And he's very informative, very knowledgeable guy. So why then get upset about his games? And games like Scythe, well, I need to talk about them individually, really, but specifically Viticulture and Wingspan for me are boringly thematic, uninteractive, and I find them obnoxiously slow. And the problem, and it's just me, I know other people don't feel that way, and I respect their opinions. I don't disagree. I'm sure I'm in the minority as well, and that's fine. But what I tend to find with his games is they're uninteractive with other players. They're very solitary. And even Scythe, the battle, the combative side of the game has been minimalized to just a taster of men on a map more than it is really a proper area control game. And even Euphoria, they're just games where you just don't really interact with someone. It's very much
more dry Euros, aren't they?
They are, but I've played Euros where you're having interaction with other people and you're playing against the person as well as the game. But I find that with his games, you're very much just playing against yourself. Yeah, it's a race to efficiency. It's very German, actually. For an American, he's very German in his approach to board games. And like, for example, well, he didn't really design Wingspan, so you can't blame him for that. And I don't, you know, a lot of people love that game, but I find the theme extremely boring. I find the tableau building very mediocre, streamlined, nicely done. But maybe I find a lot of his games are overhyped, and so I enter them thinking that they're going to be something greater than they actually are. And for me, that's just disappointing. I think that's what ultimately it comes down to. So what I'd like to do is jump into Jamie Stegmaier's body and then put some interaction in some of his games so that he doesn't feel so lonely all the time. That's my answer.
Yeah, I mean, that is a very reasonable answer. I mean, I kind of agree with you quite a bit there because, you know, I'm a big fan of viticulture because for me, it ties in with where I live. I live in the middle of a vineyard, right? So, and I spent many years cutting grapes and trimming and pruning. So for me, that game just touches a nerve in me, and it is a race to get to the end, and I enjoy that race, and I enjoy.
It's a good game. It's a solid game. I'm not saying, you know, but they're again, it's quite overhyped. I've played quite a few times through the expanded version now, where you have the seasons, and you know, I just feel, again, there are some cards that create some interaction with other players. Some of the yellow cards, I can't remember what they're called, but
yeah, you got the summer visitors.
You can deny some resources to people.
Yeah,
but really and truly, it's just you and some denial worker placement. So you can only put stuff into. It's a nice feeling making the wine and doing the combos and using the cards, but I could. Yeah,
Scythe as well. I mean, I've played Scythe about 6 or 7 times, and I still can't review it because I still don't know how I feel about it. Again, I agree with you. Kind of overhyped.
I don't know why
Definitely.
it's not so much. I struggle
Yeah.
to understand. Like, it's a good. You know what I think with him? They're middleweight games. They're extremely smooth. They play very smoothly.
Yeah. There's
People sit
no.
down at the table and they have what I would describe as a nice,
Time.
uninteractive, pleasant time. And I think if you're kind of it gets rid of all the passive aggressive players,
Yeah.
those people that are going to sit there and they're going to become difficult. That it gets rid of all the ganging up by like two best friends, right? It just doesn't happen in his games. So
Yeah. There's no
if
team
that is your
making.
first game, or if that's a game in your gaming group, you can just sit there and no one's going to really harass you, right? You're just going to do your thing and you can win. You can win because other people can't really do much to stop you as long as you're playing efficiently as possible and you get a little bit of luck. God bless you.
Yeah.
But for me, that takes the spice of life away from the game. So I like a bit of interaction. I don't mind getting like beaten down by a couple of opponents after a clever move by them. I laugh at it. I'm amused by it, and I can understand why people don't like it, and that's why they're attracted to Jamie's games. But that's just my opinion.
Yeah. I as I said, I kind of agree with you. So don't worry. I don't think you're going to get backlash, and I shouldn't get a backlash on these videos because I give big thumbs up for viticulture and big thumbs down for Between Two Cities. So
Right. Well,
yeah.
There's a show on Radio 1 in the UK called Unpopular Opinions. It's a small segment where people say things that are very unpopular, like I like Game of Thrones, but something like I don't like Game of Thrones, right? And then they just hammer the guy. Well, I think there's I'm a bit bored with Jamie's games. That's my unpopular opinion, I think.
Yeah. I don't think you're alone. Trust me, I don't think you're alone. Every time that I've said something which is like I don't like Pandemic, there have been like 500 people that said I agree with you. I don't believe the hype in this. And it's just
Pandemic was my gateway game.
Yeah, Pandemic was
a little place in my heart. It has a little place in my heart as my gateway game. But the fact that like Z Garcia from Dice Tower puts it constantly near in his top 10 just blows my mind. He's played thousands of games and he's just like, yeah, Pandemic. Yeah. Really? Okay. What? No improvement in any other game? No? Okay. Pandemic. Good for you, bud. If he likes Pandemic, he likes Pandemic.
Okay, we're going to move on.
Board games. I love that about board games. You go to like one of the things we see on Facebook on the group that we actually spoke or that we've been speaking on sometimes. You get people putting up their like top 9 games. Have you seen that? It's very popular now on Facebook.
Yeah,
and the diversity in those top 9 games is mad. Is absolutely mad. And what you start to see is a theme around the people that actually like the games. You get a general overview of the games that are liked. So if someone likes worker placement, they'll have like 9 worker placement games in there. But it's interesting. Your personality can be dictated by the games you like somewhat. So
yeah, and I think some your life is reflected in the games that you like as well. I mean, as I said, viticulture. Yeah, I've been out in the vineyards.
Yeah.
So
as a worker placement, I love like one of my favorites is Champions of Midgard. Yeah, Champions of Midgard, and I absolutely love that worker placement. And Anachrony, I think those are my 2 favorite worker placement games. But the thing is I like Anachrony because it's got time like travel mechanics inside, and I'm a physics teacher. It's hard to step away from what you're thematically enjoy, even if the mechanism aren't as good, even as theme has such a big part to play. So if you can really get in contact with the theme, I think with a game, then it does make a massive difference.
Okay, talking about theme, do you want to talk about the theme of your up and coming game from Kickstarter called Vector Wars?
Well, I got a little. This is the pre-production copy. There you go. It's the core set. It won't be the this is not the super duper set that's going to come out. I'm hoping to have a spot UV in the center there. I could talk about it. If you put up the Kickstarter, I'll have a little chat with you guys about it. It's a 2-player tactical area domination game. I mean, what I'm telling you doesn't do it real justice because the mechanisms inside the game are such that it doesn't fit into any one particular genre. Okay. It has area domination in it, but that doesn't count as a winning That's not the winning part of the game. It has resource management in it, but again, that's not the winning part of the game. It has tactical play, and you're putting cards face down, so opponents don't know what you're doing. So there's a bit of hidden action involved in the game. And again, that's not the main mechanic of the game. They combine together to create something different. It's like a different experience. I think if you're someone who wants different experience in a board game that they've absolutely never had before, but recognize the mechanics in the game from other games maybe, and a little bits here and there, and feel it, and it still brings a little bit of homely feeling to what they understand as board games, then they need to get involved, because there's not going to be anything else like it on the market. There just isn't.
Okay, and so what started this game design process for you? Was it just like a eureka moment in the bath, or did you play a couple of games ago? You know what? I could make my own game, and then just start kind of genetically smashing things together.
So that's a really complicated question. I mean, I've been asked this, I have been asked it before, but it's a very complicated question, because, if you ever think about how you say ended up in France, there's probably a gajillion variables that came together.
There's one.
Oh, is there? Well, was it born there?
It's called the wife.
Oh, yeah, but how did you meet your wife, right? They were like, you could have done one thing one day and maybe never met her, right? Going back to Quantum Leap, yeah? So all these variables had to have come together to have brought you to where you are, and I feel a lot of them have brought me to this board game. So I'll tell you why. There's obviously a very strong Tron theme to the game, because I absolutely love the movie. It's one of my favorite movies of all time. I
like you even more. We're gonna have to hang out and be real good friends.
So, I'm a huge Tron fan, so you can see from the board game it looks very Tron-like. And then I'm a big Final Fantasy VII. Gaming. I grew up playing Final Fantasy VII on the PlayStation. It was one of my favorite games, with GoldenEye at the time. And look, it has mechanisms from different games that I've absolutely loved. Star Realms, I was like a UK store and champ at Star Realms. I absolutely loved Star Realms. I've got pictures of me with my mats that I've won. And I played Netrunner, and I influenced the world number 2's Netrunner deck. He credits me with the deck that he used. So I've been always involved. I was on the Pro Tour as a 16-year-old for Magic the Gathering. So I have one Pro Tour point sitting around somewhere. It's probably wiped now. It was when I was 16 years old. But the point is that I've always been heavily involved with card games. I've always been heavily involved with games that have got strong tactical elements to it. I played county chess, and so I've always been involved with board games. It's always been a part of my life on some form or another. And this is a mashup, I suppose, of every great thing I loved about board gaming for 2 players. I'm working on another game for 1 to 5. Every game's from 0, from 1 to 5. At the moment, it's going to be my second big game. But I mean, there are mechanisms from lots of different things. So the triple triad, if you know Final Fantasy VII, you'll notice there are 4 numbers on each of the cards, and they have the triple triad mechanic in there. There is a shop like there is in Ascension and Star Realms. And you'll notice that mechanic is working in there in some way. There is a financial aspect to the game that doesn't work. Like, you don't have cards that have coins in them. You actually gain those resources. So there's a bit of resource management in there, and games like Champions of Midgard and Anachrony and all the other, Lords of Waterdeep, all the kind of, resource management. Gaia Project, absolutely love Gaia Project. So any of the resource management games, I wanted a little bit of that risk. And the characters coming face down, that comes from Netrunner, because again, like that feeling of not knowing what you're about to do is so exciting, or what you're about to see is so exciting. So
falling into a trap will just take out an easy enemy.
Exactly.
I was going to ask, is there any interbreeding with light cycles, like chocobos and light cycles mixed together kind of thing?
I wish. There's no light cycles in the game. Actually, that's not true. There are, if you look very carefully at the market cards, well, you won't be able to see them one day. No, you can't, because they're not there. But if you look very carefully at the market cards, you will see some references to Tron. I have to be very careful, obviously, for IP reasons. I don't want to be accused of anything, even slightly. But you know, there is references, and every card has a little quote underneath, a little flavor text, as they call it in Magic.
Yeah.
So if you ever get an opportunity to have a look at some of the flavor text, they're things that you could reference and understand if you know your movies. There are things that you could reference, like, for example, I buy that for $1. I mean, do you know where that comes from?
RoboCop.
Of course, right? So you're going to get a lot of 80s. I'm a huge 80s movie fan, like insane 80s movie fan. So it's got that 80s feel to it almost. If you look at the kind of theming of the game, it's very 80s. So that's, you know, that's where I went with it. And I just think it's very different to anything that's out in the market. Like, I don't know anything that's got this kind of theming and feel to it. And it's like I said, it's unlike any other 2-player board game you will have ever experienced. There is a whole load of canon. I've written comic books in the past. I'm a big comic book fan as well, huge comic book collection, won't even tell you. And I wrote some canon to all the characters and set the world, so it gives it some more flavor, and you can really get involved in feeling why the characters are named the way they are, why the characters behave the way they are, why their flip abilities are the way they are. And it's so, if you really like that kind of stuff, then you will like fall in love with the
history behind it. And
yeah, you'll fall in love with the canon inside the game as well. It'll make you feel that you're a bit more involved.
That's one thing that when people talk about comic books, it's very, very rare that you will find a rule book which is actually a comic book and the rules are explained in a comic book fashion.
It's cool. It's a great idea. We attempted. I've attempted it in the past. It's extremely complicated. You'd think it'd make lots of sense, but it's about the number of panels and how big that comic book's going to be.
Yeah.
And the problem is explaining the basic mechanics that way is not a problem. You could show very basic the mechanisms in the game on what people need to, you know, put down or do or whatever. But the intricacies, the questions that people ask about, you know, what happens in the interactions between particular cards, you can't deal with it in a comic book. It's just too much.
Yeah.
And the costs and the work, like, my God.
And artists nowadays they are more and more expensive, but they are producing more and more great content. That's the thing. The images that you get in every board game that's coming out now is like, wow, that looks good, and you just want to buy it because the box looks nice.
Yeah, I mean, I want to shout out my artist Hal Laren, who is a comic book artist. He's doing work for quite a few of the bigger companies. Actually, he designed some of the concept work for Star Trek. Like, one of the suits was designed by him. He's a phenomenal artist, and if anybody wants some, you know, artwork done, then he's your man. You should jump in on this guy because he's absolutely phenomenal. Getting some exposure. All right, I have to do that. You know?
No, you look good. You look good. That's your good side. It's like light and dark. Dark.
Yeah, exactly. The dark side.
So when's your Kickstarter going to be breaking through?
Yeah, 20th of October is the date of the Kickstarter. You know, I'd like to. It is very difficult. One man and his artist. That is what we are. I am not something. Yeah, I've done everything. We've got me and the art designer has done everything. There is no massive group of us. We don't have a PR person. I don't have 6 people working underneath me developing the game, and it's taken it's taken a long time. I've had to learn a lot of different skills, put on a lot of different hats, and you know, it's been a real process.
You've taken time off work for Kickstarter, because you are going to need to take time off, because the barrage of questions you're going to get.
Well, I'll tell you now,
your mind.
I'm on half term in the week that I've got 2 weeks off. So I will have that, and then I have the winter term. So I've got quite a lot of time. Half the time that the Kickstarter will be on, I will be actually off just to solo deal with the Kickstarter. Yeah. So it's been designed that way. I actually put it in the summer holiday. This is the second attempt, if people don't know. Yeah, I actually it actually went in August, or was it July? Might have been July, the first time. But we got swamped with Dice Throne and Grail. No, it wasn't Grail. Etherfields. And there was just 5 or 6 multi-million-pound projects that were on at the same time, and we got lost. To be quite honest,
yeah,
we got lost in the Kickstarter.
Yeah.
So I don't even think we got like a look in. It was very, very difficult. It was very
It can
difficult.
be hard to be noticed in those kind of situations when there's these big games and everyone just heads directly towards the light. I can't help it, Henry. It's so beautiful.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so look, you know what? I decided that if I'm coming back, which I am, and this is going to be my final attempt. Like if it doesn't make it now, then I'll have to print it myself, take the money out, do something. You know, I have to go through it myself because I can't give up. I've spent like 2 years of my life. Can't just waste that. So I'd have to follow through. But I mean, I've leveled it up, I feel, in every feasible possible way. I've taken constructive criticism from professionals across the board. I've got interviews and reviews from people up and down the UK because I can't afford to send it to the US. The cost of prototypes and the cost to send it is just exorbitant, and the cost they want to actually review it. I mean, I don't know if people know, but
yeah, I know. I've been there. I've done that. I've had to cut my costs because everyone else started putting their prices up, and it was like, okay, too much competition. I can't compete.
Yeah. I mean, it's a very crowded market right now. And I feel like a lot of the big companies are just taking out everybody. They'll just put 4 or 5 grand, 6 grand, 10 grand, maybe more actually, aside, and then just hit every single person, man versus meeple, whatever, like Dice Tower, you know, like everybody, every single one. And what that does is it blanket closes off any opportunity for the mini man, the first timer, right?
Yeah,
it makes it
not
very
all the time though. I have seen like some games which have been gone under the radar of many people and not been reviewed by the big companies still do quite well.
Yeah, it does happen. And you know what? I want to shout out the UK, lot. They've been phenomenal. Like I've had such a fantastic reception from. I mean, the game's good. Like I totally believe that. So you know, I'm hoping that that's going to stand on its own right. But further than that, they've been extremely supportive, given great advice. They went well beyond what they needed to do to help me out, and I thank all of them. I'm not going to mention them all here because there's no point, but I thank all of them. The UK in general has been phenomenal. So yeah, thanks to all of you guys.
Okay, that's wonderful. So 20th of October is the time for you to look out for Vector Wars coming soon. And now for a quick commercial break. This video was made possible with the help of Game Toppers. Upgrade your gaming experience with a Game Topper.
They look awesome. I love that. They look so awesome, those Game Toppers.
They are awesome.
Oh, you've got one. Oh, gosh.
Yes, he's my podcasting buddy.
Is he? I love those Game Toppers.
Yeah. So, moving on.
I have to off screen. I have to talk to you about them.
Yeah, no problems. I'll be glad to talk to you, and I'll be glad to talk to you about your Kickstarter and give you some advice.
Oh, glad. Cheers.
Okay. Your next question, though, on the show is: you're now going to Sam Beckett into. I gotta stop doing this. I know it's not a podcast. Okay, but you're going to Sam Beckett into an actor or director from a TV show or a film.
Yeah.
And you're going to tell me why you want to go into that person. But also,
so easy.
Also, this ties into board games as well. Something that they've created or been involved in, you'd like to see made into a board game as well.
What if it's already been made into a board game, but it's really bad?
Yeah, that's perfectly fine. I would like to hear how you would make a game of, say, Game of Thrones different, better than what's already out on the market.
Okay, so my answer is I would like to jump into Michael J. Oh, no, don't say it.
Now. Too late now. I forgot that this is a game show question. I was going to ask you for 5 one-word clues to point me in the direction.
Oh, you didn't tell me that bit.
I know. I was just going to get to it, and
you paused, and I jumped in like a bull in a china shop, smashed all the china, destroyed the shop, came out, looked at it, atomic bomb exploded, and then you tell me, oh, by the way, that was my favorite shot.
Right. Next guest, insist that they read the script.
Damn it. I will change my answer. It was so easy 2 minutes ago, but now.
Michael J. Fox. Carry on. Michael J. Fox.
Well, there's only one movie that Michael J. Fox is known for. Come on, let's just be honest. It's not exactly going to be complicated.
Teen Wolf.
No. Get the hell out.
There's another one which I love as well.
Not Hollywood.
The Peter
Not
Jackson
Hollywood.
one. Oh, the Peter Jackson one where he's a ghost. That's a good one as well.
The Peter Jackson one where he's a ghost.
Frighteners.
Oh my Lord. Well, you're really pushing the boat. You're pushing the boat now.
That's a
Jeez Louise.
Stop doing that.
Yeah. Gosh. Well, so yeah. You're going to guess what it is then, I'm guessing.
Yeah.
My favorite movie of all time, actually. Is my favorite movie of all time.
1, 2, or 3?
1, 2, or 1. A lot of people say 2. I hear 2 all the time. Right? But it's 1. For me, it's 1 for lots and lots and lots of reasons. Mm-hmm. But I absolutely adore that film. Bless them, they couldn't get the time travel stuff right according to physics, but they...
I'll take your word for that.
Yeah, just try it. Trust me. But they did a phenomenal job. It's my greatest movie of all time. It inspired me to go into physics. It inspired me to be where I am. Actually, I suppose it's like my job or what I've been doing for the last X many years. I would say that movie is one of the biggest inspirations I had. Mm-hmm. And as a board game, well, where is it? We saw some crackpot version of Back to the Future as a board game. I've seen a crackpot version of it as a card game, and they are both abysmally poor.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, time travel is a really hard kind of mechanism to introduce into board games and do it successfully. But as you said, it was
Anachrony. Yeah, they did it really well. They did it really well in Anachrony. It's quite clever. And David Truzzi, I can't even remember his name. I've met him. He's a super nice guy. He very smart guy. Came up with a great mechanism where you effectively borrow from the future some piece of resource, and then you have to return it when you get to that point in time again. And it's very clever. It's like a forward loan, like a futures market. Yeah, and you just borrow something from the future, and if you don't pay it back because you can't afford it, then you create a schism in time, and it counts as negative points at the end of the game. So very clever mechanism.
So do you have an idea for this Back to the Future game?
Yeah, I would actually. If I was to make a Back to the Future game, it would all be about the car. It would all be about the car, because the whole thing is that the game effectively surrounds the idea of the car being the only stationary point in time. The car is the only point where inside the car is the only point in time that time travels normally. And Marty experiences that because his time is always going forwards. And so if I was to have a game, I would have the ability for you to jump around into different points in his life, and you would have to achieve certain goals in those particular time frames. And the problem is that I suppose it's a bit like Time Stories. That's done a good job of that, actually, to be fair. It's slightly different, but Time Stories, I don't know if anyone's played Time Stories, but you have to like solve a crime, and you only find out the information after traveling already once through the game. So you have to play it multiple times to get through to the end of the scenario. This would be different. My games, the idea would be that you'd be traveling into different points within the movie where you were trying to achieve goals, but you couldn't do that without going backwards and forwards quite a few times. And there were consequences, because it would affect, when you change something in the back end of the game, it would affect other parts in the middle and the front end of the game. So let's say there were 4 distinct areas, 4 distinct time zones. Every time you did something in zone 1, it would create a course of things that would mess up zone 2, 3, and 4, and you'd have to keep trying to recorrect them. Does that make sense?
Yeah, kind of. Yeah, I'm busy formulating my own game now.
If you're a game designer, it's the first thing you do. You just hook onto the first mechanism someone says and goes, that was really good. Now I'm going to ignore everything else you've said and come up with my own game. That's a sign of a good designer.
I'm never going to be a designer. Yeah, I was thinking more of a like kind of family game where you deal out some cards, and they are people, and then you pair them up as families, and then you during the game you're trying to get these couples together So you will have another layer of cards, and then somehow some mechanism you got to switch them around and meet the right people. So they create a family tree, which ends up at the family tree that is from your timeline.
Yeah, that sounds pretty cool. I'd give it a play test for you.
Yes, when I am in my grave, you can do that.
Can I just say one other thing?
Go on.
One of the things about game design that a lot of people don't recognize is that the mathematics, for example, behind Vector Wars, just the math and the simulation modeling took me 3 months just to make sure that it's balanced. So that when someone plays the game, maybe they won't feel it the first time so much, but if they play the game a few times, they'll start to recognize that the scores are all very tight, very, very close. And really your skill is going to really determine by how much you're going to win against your opponent. It is extremely tightly built in terms of its mathematics. And any game that I make in the future will have a very strong mathematical simulation modeling that occurs that allows people to know and that it can't be gamed or overpowered, because that is one of the issues I have with board games is that there's very often there's one optimal strategy. I feel that actually with a lot of Jamie Stegmaier's games, by the way, there are optimal strategies. The first time I experienced it was with a game called Stone Age. You know Stone Age?
Yes.
Stone Age was one of the first worker placement games I played. It was like it's a gateway worker placement game. And there is clearly an optimal strategy. And as soon as you work out what that optimal strategy is in general, you'll win most of the time.
It takes time to figure out about the baby making hut, doesn't it?
Yeah. But there's a strategy in there, with the way the mechanism that wood works. It's mathematically not sound, the game, and that's part of the problem. And most people won't recognize it. If you're not like that way inclined, if your brain doesn't work that way, you'll never know it exists. You'll just carry on playing the game. And if you're playing with people that all don't recognize it, then it's fabulous.
Yes.
But for me,
it's fabulous.
Right.
But for you, it's like a little bug in your eye.
That's exactly it. It's like a little niggle that's just working its way into your brain, and you're just like,
yeah. I haven't found it yet. I still enjoy playing it. I just like causing chaos for the other players. That's very interactive as a worker placement, because you can really screw other players over if you take the
the worker denial is so strong, isn't it? Right? Yeah.
But then there's that big luck of rolling the dice. Am I going to get some wood with these 2 dice? Not much. 2 ones.
Wood denial is a big deal in that game, I can tell you now.
Yeah.
Wood denial.
So your game would be Back to the Future. And you'd be Michael J. Fox.
Yes, I would. Yes, I damn well would. Yeah.
Dashing nice dude that he is.
What's your out of interest before what would be your game? Maybe everyone knows already, but what would be your film that you would turn into a game?
Oh, I would do Babylon 5. I love Babylon 5. I would love to see a kind of a Twilight Imperium version of Babylon 5, but have all that political.
I used to play the card game back in the 90s.
Yeah, you know what? I've got it right down here, and I've never played it. I can't figure out the rules. It's written in Klingon.
I think there's just me and you that actually know about the game existing. You know what I mean?
I've got the other game as well. The Hex game that they bring out. So there. I've got four boxes.
Right, yeah.
4 boxes of Babylon 5 cards, which I've never played.
Do you think that Deep Space Nine was a rip-off of Babylon 5?
Oh yeah, they even admitted it was.
A lot of Trekkies don't. I went to a Comic-Con one time where I think it was London Film and Comic-Con, and they had all the Star Trek captains there one year, right? And I'm hanging out, and I'm like, you know what? I really like Babylon 5, and it was like putting a knife in each one of their hearts simultaneously. Yeah. And when I said the words that Deep Space Nine was a ripoff, and I love Deep Space Nine, I love Star Trek, right? But I said that Deep Space Nine was a ripoff of Babylon 5. That Joe Michael Straczynski, who's a phenomenal comic book writer, by the way, went in with the script to Paramount, and they just kind of rejected it, and then copied the entire premise. Makes me feel like, come on, guys, come on, let's just all be open and honest here. Let's just all be open and honest.
Yeah, but from the get-go, when I watched I'm a Trekkie. I watched them both side by side, but it was Babylon 5 that I fell in love with because there was this arc and this story which was so intriguing. And it was like, they mentioned that a couple of episodes ago, and now it's here. It's like, this is good. This is what good television is for me.
It had a real dark side to the show, didn't it? You know, like you couldn't get it in Star Trek. Star Trek was too Federation, happy, everyone smile.
But apparently, at the end of Deep Space Nine, they did get a bit more dark.
They do, yeah. When all the Jemadar stuff, I know I'm not going to go into it, but they do it definitely. But I swear they took inspiration again from Babylon 5.
Joe even wrote an article a long time ago saying that exactly what you said. Went to Paramount. They rejected it, and obviously at the same time he got the green light for Babylon.
Yeah,
they'd green lighted a Star Trek version.
Yeah,
but
But it goes back to our copying again, doesn't it? It goes back to our copying.
It goes back to copyright. Yeah.
I'm going to be quiet now, and you're going to give me the full story of what I meant to do here without.
Okay, this is the last question. This is your open-ended question. If you could jump into anybody. You don't have to be a musician. It could be a musician if you wanted to, but anybody, who would it be and why? And hopefully you'll have like a poignant answer for me. Something, I jump.
Am I meant to draw this again, or
no? We'll just do this one. This one's
free flow. So my answer to that is a guy called Nikola Tesla.
Okay.
Don't forget, I'm a physics teacher, so let's put it into context. I could have gone with Einstein. It was a bit cliche. Nikola Tesla is probably the greatest physicist of all time. He's an unsung hero in the physics world. Has more patents still in act than any physicist current day. He's responsible for the mobile telephone. He's responsible for a lot of weather technology. He's responsible for Wi-Fi. This guy was just he's responsible for our electricity. Alternating current electricity is his invention. Yeah. So this guy is just something else. And unfortunately, he had the most terrible life. It just did not one bit of misery after another. So if I could go back in time, I would jump into Nikola Tesla's body and I would do exactly what happens in Quantum Leap. And I would fix what went wrong once and make it right again, so that his life would not have ended with him going mad in a little room in America. It's a crying shame. His life story is a crying shame. And yet he's still probably the most, like I said, dominant invention, guy that's ever been, really. So that's who I'd love to have met him just for 5 minutes even, because he was totally mad. Like the mad scientist that you get with the crazy hair and the white coat. I mean, it's based off of Nikola Tesla, really. I mean,
okay, so it wasn't David Bowie kind of crazy. It was something else.
No, he was David Bowie crazy. Like, wait a minute, have you seen the movie? What's that movie? The Prestige. Have you seen the film The Prestige? Yes. Yeah, I mean that's Nikola Tesla, right?
Really? I mean, you said he's mad and crazy. I see David Bowie as kind of a straight guy in that film. He's very kind of, I know, I'm God. I know the answers. And I was like,
well, I don't know. I mean, if you're asking me whether David Bowie was close to the mentality of Nikola Tesla, I don't know. But he was. If you read about him, I've read quite a lot about him. He's totally mental. He went completely bonkers. And everyone said that he was mad all the time, but he wasn't. Right? What he was doing was he was just so far ahead of people that they couldn't understand what it was that he was doing, until it got to the point where if someone just constantly hits your head with the fact that you're mad all the time, then you're going to end up going mad, because no one can see the world through your eyes. No one can understand the world to the depth that you understand what's going on. And I still don't actually know how many people truly understand how much he understood about the world or what he freely gave away. There's no internet, so it's like now everything just gets published. Like you're an open book for people these days, but back then,
we know who the crazy people are by their Twitter feeds.
Oh, do you know what I forgot to show the dice. I got a pre-productions copy of the dice, guys.
Yes, dice. Show us dice.
Dice. I don't know if you can see them particularly well on my camera. Here we go. But they are they're small. They're the right size for the game, but they've got like a kind of electrical look to them. Don't know if you can see that. And they come as 4 different colors. You get 40 of these dice. So
they look kind of Tron-y.
They're Tronny, yeah, exactly. If you get the super duper pledge, that's not what it's called, but if you get the super duper pledge, then you get like metallic inlay in those, and they'll look really nice. And what's special about these dice is that they appear black. Can you see that they appear black?
Yeah.
But if you put them up to the light, they go transparent.
Okay.
So when you're playing, at times they'll appear transparent, which is really cool.
Light table.
Yeah, anyone who's got those like tables where the light goes around the outside of the table.
Yeah.
They'll appear completely see-through. They'll appear completely transparent. Be very cool.
Well, there you go. Thank you very much, Eli, for coming on and talking about your game. Let's just have a quick recap. It's coming out on Kickstarter on the 20th of October. How can people get hold of you and your company in the meantime? Where should they follow?
Well, they can go to the Facebook page. There is a Vector Wars Facebook page. Meeple City Games itself is currently building a website. So when that goes up, I will work on that. And there's a lot going on for one man, I can tell you. So as soon as that's up, then I will share that. But really, just go to the Notify Me section on the Kickstarter, and as soon as it goes live, you'll get an email. And it's the same as every other Kickstarter. That if you don't know it, it's the same as every other Kickstarter. But you're welcome to go to the Facebook page. You can always send me a message. I'm super interactive. If you ask me a question, I will respond. I'm nice like that. So I don't bite. Promise.
There's going to be a lot of questions being fired at you from the 20th of October. That's for sure.
Yeah, I bet.
So once again, thank you, Eli. Good luck. I might chat to you in the meantime, and probably while the Kickstarter's running, see how you're managing and not going crazy like Tesla or Bowie. Because I've heard stories.
Yeah.
Yes. So all that remains for me to do is just to thank everyone for watching. That's Eli. That's me. Thank everyone for watching. Remember, you can always go to boardgameseverybodyshould.com and check out all the other interviews I've done on the Quantum Quiz. There's also all the board game reviews we do in English et en français aussi. Donc ça c'est super cool. There is also the Birkin Badger Board Game Babble podcast, as well as all the board game soundtracks that I have been recording lately. So until next time, play nice with each other, and ciao for now. Just sitting at the table next to